The night in Emerald Heights was silent except for the steady hum of the air conditioner. Tunde Afolabi sat alone in his vast living room. Marble floors, glass walls, a chandelier bright enough to blind, yet the place felt hollow. His phone buzzed with messages from women calling him baby and my king, but none of them made him smile. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Why does everything feel so empty?" he muttered. His assistant, Chaik, entered quietly, holding a tablet. "Sir, tomorrow's schedule." Tunde raised a hand. "Cancel it." "Sir?" "I said cancel everything. I'm done pretending this life makes sense." Cheek frowned. "You worked for all this, Oga. The mansion, the cars, the business?" "And what do I have left, Chaik? Noise, fake laughter, people who only smile when I sign checks." Chaik shifted uneasily. "You're just tired, sir." Tunde shook his head. "No, I'm starving, not for food, for something real." Chaik hesitated. "What are you planning?" Tunde's eyes narrowed, thoughtful. "I want to know if love can exist without money. I'm going to disappear for a while. I'll live like a poor man, a beggar, and see who will still look at me and see a person." Chaik stared. "Ah, Oga, that's madness." Tunde smiled faintly. "Maybe, but sometimes you must lose everything to find what matters." That night, he stripped himself of his fine suits, his gold wristwatch, even his phone. He packed old jeans, torn slippers, and a faded shirt. In the mirror, his reflection looked strange, for once, ordinary. He whispered to his own reflection, "If I can't find love in this world as Tunde Afolabi, maybe Kunle will." By the third day on Odogun Street, Kunle was no longer Tunde. Dust clung to his skin, hunger sharpened his bones, and shame followed him everywhere. People passed him by as if he were invisible. Children mocked him. Shopkeepers chased him away. On the fourth morning, weak and dizzy, he leaned against a kiosk and closed his eyes. "Sir. Sir, are you okay?" The voice was soft, worried. When he opened his eyes, he saw her. Ebere, a young woman carrying a basket of oranges and groundnuts, her face glowing with sweat and kindness. He tried to speak, but his voice failed him. She knelt beside him, opened her small bag, and brought out bread and a sachet of water. "Eat this, please." He took it with trembling hands. "Thank you. I can pay you back one day." She smiled faintly. "Who said anything about money? You look like you haven't eaten in days." Something in her eyes, gentle but firm, made him lower his gaze. She helped him sit up properly. "Do you have anywhere to sleep tonight?" He shook his head. "Come," she said after a pause. "Maybe my mother can help, but you'll have to be careful. My father doesn't like strangers." That evening, Ebere stood by the door of their compound, pleading with her mother. "Mama, he's not dangerous. He just needs a place to rest. Look at him. He's weak." Mama Ifeoma crossed her arms. "Ebere, your father will throw all of us out if he finds a stranger here." "I'll hide him," Ebere said quickly. "In the small storeroom, just for a few days." Mama Ifeoma looked through the curtain at Tunde, who stood quietly outside, head bowed. Something about his humility softened her. "Fine," she said reluctantly, "but he must never come out when your father or Madame Risi is around. You hear?" Ebere nodded. "God help us," Mama Ifeoma murmured, shaking her head. That night, they cleared the old storeroom behind the kitchen. A broken chair, a mat, and a lantern became Tunde's world. Ebere brought him rice and stew, whispering through the half-open door. "Eat quietly. If my father hears noise, we're finished." Tunde smiled weakly. Thank you, Ebere. I'll never forget this. She waved off his gratitude. Just rest. Tomorrow will be better. The following weeks moved like gentle rhythm. Morning birds, cooking smoke, and laughter slipping through small spaces. Tunde, now Kunle, repaired the leaking tap, fixed the fence, and even helped Mama Ifeoma grind pepper when no one was watching. Sometimes, when Ebere brought him food, she would linger a bit longer than necessary. They would talk about dreams, regrets, and the kind of peace neither of them had known. Kunle, she said one night, you don't talk like someone who suffered all his life. He chuckled softly. Why do you say that? Your words, they carry education, experience, like you once lived a better life. He looked away, smiling faintly. Maybe I did. Maybe I lost it. She studied his face, but didn't press further. And in that silence, something unspoken grew between them. Trust. Then came the day that changed everything. Bisi, Ebere's stepsister, noticed strange movements. Ebere sneaking food at odd hours, whispering near the storeroom. Her curiosity burned. That evening, when Ebere went to fetch water, Bisi tiptoed to the back. She pushed open the door and froze. A man sat inside, tall, quiet, staring at her like a ghost caught in daylight. Well, well, she said, smiling slyly. So this is your secret? Tunde stood. Please, don't tell anyone. I'll leave soon. Bisi's eyes trailed over him. Leave? No. Maybe I'll keep your secret, if you keep me happy. He frowned. What do you mean? She stepped closer, her voice low. I mean, I can make things easier for you. You're not bad looking, you know. Tunde's jaw tightened. You're Ebere's sister. Show some respect. Her smile vanished. So you think you're better than me? When he turned away, she screamed. Loud. Help! Mama! Somebody help me! This man tried to touch me. The house erupted in chaos. Chief Okeke stormed in, belt in hand, dragging Tunde out by his shirt. Madame Risi shouted curses, calling him a criminal. Ebere tried to intervene, crying, He didn't do anything! She's lying! But no one listened. They beat him and threw him outside. His lips bled, his heart heavy with shame. Chief Okeke pointed toward the gate. Get out before I kill you! And that's when Ebere stepped forward. If he leaves, I leave too. Everyone froze. Madame Risi hissed. You dare talk back at your father? Ebere's voice trembled, but she didn't back down. You've made this house hell. If kindness is a sin, then I'll sin with him. Mama Ifeoma wiped her eyes and said quietly, Then I go with my daughter. 3 figures walked out that night, their bags small, their hearts bruised. They found an old, abandoned house by the river, cracked walls, leaking roof, but to them, it felt like peace. Tunde helped Mama Ifeoma fix the door. Ebere cooked with firewood, humming softly. In those humble moments, laughter began to return. One evening, while the sky burned orange, Tunde looked at Ebere and said, I've lived among kings and still felt poor, but here, with you, I feel rich. She smiled shyly. Don't make promises you can't keep. I'm not promising, he said. I'm confessing. Their eyes met, the world slowing down for a heartbeat too long. I love you, Ebere, he whispered. She blinked fast, trying to hide her tears. You've changed my life, Kunle. Maybe that's love. Days later, he stood by the door, dressed in his old clothes again. I need to go, he said, to find work, to build something for us. Her hands trembled. You're leaving? Only for a while. I'll come back, I promise. Mama Ifeoma nodded quietly, eyes wet. Go, son. God be with you. Ebere watched him disappear down the narrow path, the wind whispering through the trees. She didn't know when or how he'd return, but she held on to faith. And when he did return, weeks later, with cars waiting at the gate and men bowing as he stepped out, that was the day her world stopped. Ebere didn't sleep that night. The image of Tunde stepping out of those shining black cars replayed in her mind over and over, the cameras flashing, the men in suits bowing, and the silence that fell when she realized who he truly was. The man she had fed, sheltered, trusted, was the same man whose face filled the front pages of newspapers. It was past midnight now. The lantern burned low. She sat on the edge of her bed, her hands clasped together, her heart pounding with betrayal and disbelief. She didn't even notice when Mama Ifeoma entered quietly. "Ebere," her mother said softly. "You've been sitting there for hours." Ebere turned her head slowly. Her voice was flat. "He lied to us, Mama." Mama Ifeoma sighed. "Maybe he had a reason." Ebere looked up, her eyes red. "What reason could justify this? We suffered with him. We hid him. We risked everything. And all that time, he was a millionaire pretending to be poor." Mama Ifeoma sat beside her. "My child, the world is full of strange hearts. Some people hide their pain behind pride. Others hide their pride behind pain." Ebere pressed her palms into her eyes, trying to stop the tears. "I don't even know who he is anymore." The sound of rain began to fall outside, soft at first, then heavier, the kind that makes the world sound distant. A knock came at the door. Ebere froze. Mama Ifeoma glanced toward her. "Do you want me to—" "No," Ebere whispered. "I'll open it." She rose slowly, her legs weak, her chest tight. When she opened the door, Tunde stood there, drenched in rain, his eyes tired but desperate. "Ebere," he said, his voice barely audible. For a moment neither of them moved. The only sound was the rain hitting the corrugated roof. "You shouldn't be here," she said finally, her voice trembling. "I couldn't leave it like this," he replied. "Not after everything we've been through." She gave a bitter laugh. "Everything we've been through? You mean the lies, the pretense, the humiliation?" "Ebere, please, no, Tunde. Don't you dare, Ebere. Please me." Her voice cracked, the pain spilling out. "Do you know what it felt like to believe you were struggling with me, only to find out you were watching me suffer from behind a mask?" He swallowed hard, rain dripping down his face. "It wasn't about watching you suffer. It was about learning how to live again." She shook her head. "Then why didn't you tell me the truth when you left? You said you were going to find work, to build a future. I waited every day. I prayed for you. I even dreamed about you." He stepped closer. "I know. And those prayers, they gave me strength." "Don't use my prayers to justify your deceit," she snapped, her voice shaking. Mama Ifeoma came to the doorway, watching quietly, her hands folded. Tunde took a deep breath. "When I returned to the city, I told my father everything. He wanted to meet you, to thank you and your mother. That's why I came back, not to show off, but to make things right. I wanted to tell you face to face who I really am." Ebere looked away, biting her lip to stop it from trembling. "And what? You thought I'd fall into your arms and say it doesn't matter?" "No," he said softly. "I just hoped you'd see my heart before my name." She let out a shaky breath. "Your name is all the world sees, Tunde. Even now, look outside. People are still whispering. To them, You're the golden son of Afolabi Empire. To me, you're a stranger who broke my heart." He was silent. The rain softened again, as if listening. "I don't deserve you," he said at last. Ebere's eyes glistened. "Then why did you make me believe I had you?" He closed his eyes briefly, then whispered, "Because for the first time in my life I felt human. You gave me that." She turned away, wiping her face with her wrapper. "You need to leave, Tunde." He hesitated. "Ebere, please, don't shut me out like this." "I'm not shutting you out," she said quietly. "I'm shutting out the pain." He wanted to speak again, but her silence told him the night was over. He stepped back slowly, the mud squelching beneath his feet. As he walked away, she closed the door, her back pressed against it, her knees giving way. Mama Ifeoma caught her before she fell. "He's gone," Ebere whispered, sobbing. "He's really gone." Her mother stroked her hair gently. "Maybe this is not the end, my child. Sometimes truth must destroy something before it can rebuild it." Ebere clung to her, tears hot on her cheeks. "Mama, I don't know if I can forgive him." "Then don't rush it," Mama Ifeoma said softly. "Let time speak. Love doesn't die. It only hides when wounded." Outside, Tunde walked into the rain until the compound was a blur behind him. Each drop that hit his face felt like punishment. He stopped under a mango tree, looked up at the night sky, and whispered, "God, if I've truly hurt her, then let her heal, even if it's without me." The next morning, he packed his things into one of the black SUVs and drove back to Emerald Heights. The mansion that once felt empty now felt suffocating. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the city skyline. Cheek entered quietly. "Oga, you found her?" "Yes." "How did it go?" Tunde's voice was hollow. She saw the truth, and the truth broke her. Cheek sighed. "Maybe time doesn't heal lies, Cheik. Only truth does." He stood and looked around the massive room, gold-framed portraits, leather chairs, the hollow echo of his own success. He whispered to himself, "What's the point of owning the world if you lose the only person who saw your soul?" Down in the courtyard, workers washed his cars, the sound of water and engines clashing against the silence of his thoughts. He turned toward the window, whispering her name. Ebere. Back in the small riverside home, Ebere was washing clothes by the stream. Every ripple reminded her of the night it all ended. Her eyes stared blankly into the water. Mama Ifeoma approached, carrying a basket of vegetables. "Still thinking about him?" Ebere nodded slowly. "He wasn't who I thought he was, Mama. But somehow, the person he was with me, that man felt real." Mama Ifeoma smiled sadly. "Then hold on to that truth. Don't let anger erase what love revealed." The girl stared into the distance, the wind tugging softly at her scarf. "Maybe I will," she whispered. "But I don't know if I can ever look at him the same again." That evening, as the sun sank behind Eko City, Tunde stood in his father's study. Adi Afolabi looked up from a newspaper. "You've changed, son." Tunde nodded. "Yes, father. I lost the mask I used to wear." "And the girl?" Aid asked. Tunde looked away. "She knows everything now." "And she left you?" "She had every right to." His father rose, walked to him, and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then win her back, not as Tunde Afolabi, the billionaire. Win her back as the man she fell in love with." Tunde looked up slowly, his eyes glinting with determination. "Then I'll do whatever it takes." His father smiled faintly. "Good. Because when love is real, it doesn't end. It fights back." Tunde nodded. Then it's time to fight. 2 weeks passed before Tunde gathered the courage to return to Odogun Street. Every day he had wanted to go, but fear held him back. Fear that Ebere would turn away again, fear that his presence would only reopen the wound he'd caused. But love, when real, doesn't stay buried. That morning, he stood before his father. "I need to go back," he said. Tunde Afolabi looked up from his desk. "Back where?" "To Ebere. I have to make things right." His father sighed, setting down his reading glasses. "You already told her the truth, son. If she chooses not to forgive, you can't force it." Tunde shook his head. "I'm not going there to beg for forgiveness. I'm going to show her that I meant every word. That I love her." Aide studied him quietly, then nodded. "Then go as a man, not a millionaire. Leave your convoy behind. Take only one car. Go humbly." Tunde smiled faintly. "You've changed too, father." His father chuckled. "Maybe your madness taught me something." By afternoon, Tunde arrived at the small compound. The air was thick with market noise, hawkers shouting prices, the smell of roasted corn drifting through the air. When he knocked on the wooden gate, Mama Ifeoma opened it. Her expression was calm, unreadable. "Good afternoon, Mama." "Tunde Afolabi," she said, her voice even. "You came back?" He nodded. "Yes, Ma. Please, I need to see Ebere." She stepped aside. "She's at the backyard washing vegetables. But whatever you say, choose your words carefully. Her heart is still healing." Tunde bowed slightly. "Thank you, Ma." He walked slowly toward the back, where Ebere knelt by a small bowl, slicing okra. Her hands froze when she saw him. For a long moment, neither spoke. The air between them felt fragile. Finally, she said, without looking up, "What are you doing here?" "To keep a promise," he replied softly. She rose, wiping her hands. "Promises from you don't mean much anymore." "I deserve that," he said, "but I also deserve the chance to show you I meant everything I said before I left." She crossed her arms. "And how exactly will you do that?" "By starting where we stopped," he said. "By doing this right. I came to ask your father for your hand." Her eyes widened. "My father? The same man who almost killed you? He will never agree." "I'll still ask," Tunde said firmly, "because that's how you taught me, to stand for what's right even when it hurts." She stared at him, torn between anger and admiration. "You really don't give up, do you?" He smiled faintly. "Not when it comes to you." Mama Ifeoma watched from the doorway, a small, knowing smile touching her lips. "Maybe this boy really means it," she murmured under her breath. That evening, they went together to Chief Okeki's house. The compound looked the same. Large, loud, filled with the sound of Madame Risi's gossiping friends. When they entered, Chief Okeki's face hardened immediately. "What are you doing here?" Tunde bowed slightly. "Good evening, sir. I came in peace." "Peace?" the man barked. "After you brought disgrace to my home?" Ebere stepped forward. "Papa, please, he's not here to fight. He's here to ask for my hand in marriage." The compound fell silent. Even Madame Risi stopped talking. Chief Okeki blinked, then burst into laughter. Cold, cruel laughter. "Marriage? My daughter? To a man who pretended to be a beggar?" Tunde's voice remained calm. "Sir, I know I deceived you, but I did it for reasons I can't change now. I love your daughter, and I'm ready to do things properly." Chief Okeki slammed his hand on the chair. "My answer is no. In our tradition, the first daughter must marry before her younger one. Bisi is still here, unmarried. So until then, No wedding. Ebere gasped. Papa, that custom was abolished years ago. Not in my house, he roared. As long as I live, no one breaks that rule. Tunde turned to him, voice steady but respectful. Sir, I understand tradition, but when a custom begins to destroy happiness, it ceases to be culture. It becomes cruelty. Chief Okeke's eyes flared. Get out, both of you, before I curse this day. Ebere's eyes filled with tears. Papa, please. But he waved them off with fury. Outside, under the evening sky, she turned to Tunde. You see, I told you he'd never agree. Tunde looked up, his face calm but resolute. Then we'll find another way. Later that night, Tunde sat with his father, recounting everything. Ade Afolabi listened quietly, tapping his fingers on the table. So he hides behind an outdated tradition? Yes, father, Tunde replied. He's using it as an excuse. Ade leaned back, thoughtful. Then perhaps he needs to hear from someone whose voice he can't ignore. Tunde frowned. What do you mean? Ade stood. An old friend of mine, King Adewale of Aremo Kingdom. He's the custodian of the very tradition your future father-in-law is twisting. If the king speaks, even pride must bow. Tunde nodded slowly. Then let's see the king. The next morning the palace gates of Aremo opened for them. Guards saluted as the Afolabi convoy rolled in. The palace courtyard was lined with bronze statues and palm trees, sunlight spilling through colored glass windows. King Adewale sat on a golden chair, his presence commanding but warm. He rose slightly as Ade Afolabi entered. My brother, the king said with a wide smile. It's been too long. They embraced, exchanging laughter and old memories before Tunde stepped forward respectfully. Your Majesty, Tunde said, bowing. I need your help. The king's eyes twinkled. You're Afolabi's son. If you need help, it must be a matter of the heart. It is, Tunde said simply. I love a woman, but her father refuses our marriage because of an old custom, that her elder sister must marry first. The king chuckled softly. Ah, that tired rule. I abolished it last year. Ade grinned. Exactly why we came to you. The king's expression hardened slightly. Who is the man still enforcing it? Chief Okeke of Odogun Street, Tunde replied. King Adewale raised his hand. Then he will answer for it. No man uses culture as a weapon against love. He turned to one of his guards. Send a royal messenger to summon Chief Okeke to the palace tomorrow morning. Tunde bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesty. The king smiled. Don't thank me yet, my son. Tomorrow, we will see how proud a man truly is when pride meets truth. That night, Tunde stood by his balcony, watching the city lights flicker. Ebere's words still echoed in his mind. You broke my heart. He whispered to the night, Then let this be how I mend it. Far away, Ebere knelt beside her bed, whispering a quiet prayer. God, if his love is real, let truth fight for us. And somewhere beyond the noise of the city, destiny began to move again. Morning came heavy with tension. In Chief Okeke's compound, a royal messenger stood at the gate, draped in the king's blue and gold colors. His voice echoed across the yard. By order of His Majesty, King Adewale of Aremo Kingdom, Chief Okeke is summoned to the palace immediately. Madame Risi stepped out, confused. Summoned? For what? The messenger's eyes did not blink. For the matter concerning your daughter's marriage, Chief Okeke appeared, adjusting his wrapper, his pride instantly rising. Tell the king I will come when I choose. The messenger's tone hardened. His Majesty said immediately, Disobedience will be considered contempt against the throne. The neighbors had begun to gather outside, whispering. "Ah, Chief Don enter Wahala," someone murmured. Reluctantly, Chief Okeke and Madame Risi climbed into their car and set off, Bisi sitting at the back with her arms folded. Inside the palace courtyard, tension filled the air. Guards stood tall, drummers waited silently. King Adewale sat on his golden seat, flanked by elders. Beside him stood Ade Afolabi and Tunde, calm but resolute. When Chief Okeke entered, he bowed stiffly. "Your Majesty." "Rise," said the king. "I hear you are holding your daughter's happiness hostage behind a dead tradition." Okeke's mouth twisted. "Your Majesty, it's not a dead tradition. It's our culture." The king leaned forward. "Culture exists to protect, not to enslave. Tell me, did you not hear when I abolished that law?" Okeke hesitated. I heard rumors, but—" "Rumors," the king thundered. "It was announced before every council of chiefs." The room fell silent. Tunde stepped forward. "Your Majesty, I came not to humiliate anyone, but to ask for fairness. I love Ebere with all my heart. She's suffered enough because of this." The king turned back to Okeke. "You see, young men today understand what love means better than some elders." Okeke clenched his fists. "With all due respect, Your Majesty, he deceived us. He lived in my house pretending to be poor." The king nodded slowly. "And yet your daughter still chose him. Doesn't that tell you something?" Madame Risi hissed quietly. "He bewitched her with lies." The king's eyes flashed. "Madame Risi, silence. If lies were spells, you'd have destroyed the world by now." Gasps rippled through the hall. Okeke looked away, his pride beginning to crack. "Your Majesty, I was only protecting my family's honor." "Then you have done the opposite," the king said sternly. "You've turned honor into arrogance." He stood up, voice ringing through the hall. "Chief Okeke, as custodian of Arimo customs, I hereby declare that your daughter, Ebere Okeke, is free to marry whom she chooses, and any man who defies this order will face royal disgrace." Drums rolled loudly. Ebere, standing quietly at the back with Mama Ifeoma, burst into tears of relief. Okeke fell to his knees, trembling. "Your Majesty, forgive my foolishness." The king waved a hand. "May this be the last time pride blinds love in my kingdom." Later that evening, Tunde walked Ebere to the palace gardens. The air was still, filled with the scent of hibiscus and earth after rain. He turned to her. "It's over, Ebere. You're free, now." She smiled faintly, tears still shining. "Freedom means nothing without peace, Tunde. But maybe now, maybe peace will come." He knelt before her, holding out a small velvet box. "Then let me make it permanent." She gasped softly as he opened it, a golden ring glinting under the lantern light. "Ebere Afeoma Okeke," he said, his voice trembling. "You saw me when no one else did. You gave me love when I didn't even deserve a name. Will you be my wife?" Her hands covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times. "Yes." Mama Ifeoma clapped her hands and began to sing softly in Igbo, her voice full of joy. From the shadows, Ade Afolabi watched his son and smiled. "You found your peace, boy." The wedding that followed a few days later was the talk of Eko City. From the palace gates to the river banks, people gathered to watch the union between love and destiny. Ebere wore a coral-beaded headpiece, her white lace glowing under the sun. Tunde, in royal agbada, looked at her like she was the first sunrise he'd ever seen. Drummers played, dancers swayed, and the king himself blessed the marriage. "May this union remind our land that love conquers pride, he proclaimed. Chief Okeki stood silently at the back, shame written on his face. He finally stepped forward and placed his hand on Ebere's shoulder. "My daughter," he said quietly, "I was wrong. May your marriage bring you everything I never gave your mother." Ebere nodded, her eyes soft with forgiveness. "Papa, it already has." Tunde bowed respectfully. "You'll always have a place in our home, sir." But behind the smiles, not every heart was at peace. Madame Risi and Bissi stood near a palm tree, their faces dark with envy. "See how they all look at her," Bissi muttered. "She took everything, even the spotlight that should have been mine." Madame Risi's voice was low, bitter. "We'll see how long this happiness lasts. There are still ways to humble pride." Bissi's eyes lit up. "You mean charms?" Madame Risi nodded. "There's a powerful native doctor in Ijoko. We'll go tonight." That night, a storm brewed over the highway. Thunder rumbled as their small car sped through the rain, wipers struggling against the downpour. "Slow down, Mama," Bissi shouted. "We can barely see!" But Madame Risi's voice was sharp. "Keep driving. Before dawn breaks, their joy will turn to ashes." Lightning flashed, and in that blinding second, a truck veered across the road. The sound of metal twisting, glass shattering, and a scream swallowed by thunder filled the night. The car rolled 3 times before crashing into a ditch. When silence returned, only rain remained, washing away the last traces of their bitterness. Back in the city, Ebere awoke suddenly, her heart racing. She didn't know why, only that the air felt heavy. She whispered a quiet prayer. "God, protect us from unseen battles." The next morning, news reached them. Mama Ifeoma read the message in silence, then handed it to Tunde. His face fell as he read. "They didn't make it," she said softly. Ebere sat slowly, the color draining from her face. "Bissi? And Mama Risi?" Mama Ifeoma nodded. Tunde took her hand gently. "Let their souls rest. They were lost in their own pain." Ebere stared into nothing for a while, then whispered, "I forgive them." Her voice was steady, almost serene. "Hate never healed anything. It only ruins the ones who carry it." Tunde looked at her with pride. "You're stronger than you know." She smiled faintly. "Maybe love teaches strength better than pain ever could." The palace bells rang that afternoon in remembrance. The king sent word of condolences, reminding everyone that envy ends where humility begins. And as the sun set over the city, Ebere leaned against Tunde's shoulder, whispering, "Maybe this is what peace feels like. Not perfect, but whole." He kissed her forehead gently. "And maybe this is what forever looks like. 2 hearts that refuse to give up." They sat there, silent, as the sky blazed gold and crimson. Somewhere above, the storm clouds finally broke apart, revealing calm blue skies, a symbol that even after chaos, love can still find its light. Months passed. The city moved on, but the story of Tunde and Ebere Afolabi became a quiet legend in Eko, a story whispered in salons, told at bus stops, and used in churches as proof that love still conquers pride. In the grand mansion that once felt cold, laughter now filled every corner. Mama Ifeoma managed the household with joy, singing hymns as she supervised the kitchen. Tunde no longer rose early for business meetings. He woke to the sound of birds, to the voice of the woman who had changed him. One morning, sunlight poured gently through the curtains. Ebere stood on the balcony, her belly round with pregnancy, gazing at the horizon. Tunde walked up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You know," he murmured, You look even more beautiful now." She smiled softly. "You say that every day." "Because it's true every day." She turned to face him, eyes glowing. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is our life. I keep expecting to wake up in that small house by the river." He kissed her forehead. "That house was where love found us. This one is where love will grow." Just then, Mama Ifeoma called from downstairs. "Ebere, doctor says it's almost time. You must rest more." Ebere laughed, leaning into Tunde. "If she says rest one more time, I'll start dreaming of chairs." He chuckled. "Better dream of names, because these children will soon need them." She blinked. "Children?" He grinned. "Twins, my love. I have a feeling." 3 months later, his feeling became prophecy. The night was calm when Ebere went into labor. Tunde held her hand the entire time, whispering prayers and encouragement. Hours later, the cry of 2 newborns broke through the stillness. Twin boys. Tunde's eyes filled with tears. "David and Daniel," he whispered. "2 blessings for one love." Ebere, exhausted but smiling, looked at him. "You've given me more than I ever asked for." He brushed her cheek gently. "You gave me everything I never knew I needed." Mama Ifeoma stood by the doorway, tears of joy streaking down her face. "God is good," she said softly. He turned ashes into beauty. Weeks later, news spread of Chief Okeke's visit request. Tunde hesitated. "Are you sure you want to see him?" Ebere nodded. "He's still my father, Tunde, no matter what happened." The next afternoon, a black car stopped in front of the mansion. Chief Okeke stepped out slowly, his hair whiter, his shoulders lower, pride replaced by regret. When Ebere saw him, she froze, memories flashing, the anger, the shouts, the night she walked away. He approached quietly, eyes wet. "My daughter," he said, voice trembling, "I came to ask for forgiveness. I lost your mother because of my stubbornness, and nearly lost you too. Pride built my house, but it also burned it." Eber's throat tightened. He knelt before her. "I don't deserve your mercy, but I beg for it." Tears filled her eyes as she placed her hand gently on his shoulder. "Papa, I forgave you the day I found peace. I just never said it out loud." He broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. "You have your mother's heart," he whispered. Mama Ifeoma, standing nearby, said softly, "God does not despise brokenness. Today our family is whole again." Chief Okeke looked up at Tunde. "Son, thank you for not letting my pride destroy her joy." Tunde helped him to his feet. "Sir, the past is gone. You're welcome here any time." The older man nodded, his face softened by humility. "Then may this home never know division again." Days later, the Afolabi family hosted a Thanksgiving celebration. The palace drummers came, King Adewale sent royal gifts, and the entire street gathered to witness the miracle of reconciliation. As the drums rolled, Ebere walked onto the balcony holding the twins, her white gown fluttering in the evening breeze. The crowd cheered, chanting blessings and songs of praise. Tunde joined her, raising his hand. "These children are not just ours," he said loudly. "They are a reminder that love still lives in this world." Ebere smiled down at the crowd, her voice trembling with emotion. "True love isn't about wealth or beauty or fame. It's about seeing someone's soul when the world only sees their scars." To Sombers, people clapped, some crying, some smiling. Mama Ifeoma lifted her hands and shouted, "May every home find the peace this one found." As night fell and the guests began to leave, Tunde and Ebere sat by the pool. the twins asleep beside them. "Do you ever think about how all this began?" she asked quietly. Tunde chuckled. A hungry beggar, a kind girl with a basket of oranges, and a miracle waiting to happen. She looked up at the stars. Maybe that's how God writes love stories, through hunger and kindness. He squeezed her hand gently, through truth and forgiveness. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the faint rhythm of drums fading into the night. Finally, Ebere turned to him, smiling softly. "Promise me something, Tunde. Anything. No matter what tomorrow brings, never forget where we started." He nodded, eyes warm. "I never could, because you were my beginning, and my home. Love tested by truth will always survive. It may break, it may bleed, but it never dies. Because when love is real, it rebuilds." If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Click subscribe, leave a comment about the lesson you learned, and share this video with someone who still believes love can conquer anything. Because sometimes one story can remind the world that kindness still wins.